Welcome to This Month in Arts Marketing with your Confluence Art Solutions team. This month, we're going to talk a lot about the customer experience as it applies to selling your tickets and your price levels, where the seats are, and then their user journey on your website. So we're glad to have you all here today.
So I think that this happens a lot, and I've seen it a ton when there's a new hire or someone that comes into a new position. It does take like a whole season to get, you know, all the stuff under your belt and kind of have an idea of what is happening. So a lot of times people will come in and they'll just recreate everything as it was before without questioning why those decisions were made. And you start to get to the point where because this job is hard and usually turnover is high, you're getting in this constant like, is anybody actually looking at what is going on when it comes from like ticket pricing and like you're adding in different things like accessible pricing. But are you cannibalizing your regular ticket sales? And like, are you, Mel, you talk about this a lot too, like putting limits on how many you're allowing to go out at that price or the show that you're putting that price
Mhm.
on
Well,
for.
I think it's being accessible without hurting your bottom line.
That's
Right,
exactly what it
so
is. Yeah.
have those price points that are friendly and welcome and opening and open, but you can't hurt, you don't do it at the jeopardy of your revenue, because you still have to make money at the end of the day. It's a
Mhm.
business and you got to make money. So put some parameters on that. It's okay to have, a very discounted ticket, but put it for a specific show, certain sections, a limited quantity.
Mhm.
And then, like I've seen other people do, put language on your site about if you want other options, contact us. And then give agency to your box office staff and your ticket sellers to make the right decisions in offering a discount for somebody that may not be publicly out there.
Love that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think part of this tying back to that idea of when people enter a new role or there are new people within an organization and they come in and it's hard to change things as well. It's not, I think it's a balance of both things. Sometimes people come in and they do want to make a ton of changes. They want to leave their mark and it's too much because you're also learning a new role and you're getting acclimated into a new organization and learning how those things function. And also making dramatic change could be really jarring for your audiences. So it's the idea of come in and get ready to make your mark, give yourself time to ease into things and get acclimated to things. And then when you choose to make those changes and implement new things, do it simply, do it clearly, do it based on data.
Do you have any just general advice for people when they're looking to maybe establish what their price point should be for next year? I mean, obviously data, but thoughts
Yeah,
on
I
that?
mean, yeah, look at data, look at where everybody's sitting. So what kind of price points are they buying? And also look at what you need to do to fill your house.
Mhm.
I am a big proponent of the very front doesn't have to be the most expensive tickets. What you want to have happen is that audience member has come to your show and it's a full feeling house.
Mhm.
You're not sold out. We know that, but it's full feeling and they feel like, oh man, I've come to the hottest thing in town. This is amazing. I want to share it with everybody. I'm going to put it on my socials and I'm going to come back and I'm going to encourage people to come back.
Mhm.
But the way to help fill your house from front to back is to have multiple price points. So don't put that most expensive ticket in your first 10 rows or 15 or 20. It just depends on the size of the house that you're working with, but have variable prices so that way you fill your house from front to back.
How do you feel about houses that are small, all having the same price point?
Um, I I think that you can, if you're small, you can probably still do two price points. just to help fill. One of the issues is if you do just straight up general admission and you're letting everybody choose their own seats, that's that's not, that just kind of is what happens. But people usually choose to sit, you know, not front. Nobody likes to be up front unless they enjoy what I refer to as the splash zone. But this in the center middle or so. But that's just, the way kind of general admission goes. A couple price points doesn't hurt. Again, that has that access that you're looking for. But it's only for like, small sections of your house. I'm also recommending you don't put your whole house on sale when you start right away, that you put your first 2/3 on sale and you keep a third closed off from sales until you've gotten to about 85%. And then you start opening stuff. And that again helps the fill. And you keep those back rows, maybe the back of your balcony on lockdown until you are at about 80% of what is currently available, and then start opening it up. That'll help. That pushes people towards the front and helps that nice feel. And it helps your artists too.
Yes.
This is live. This is live concerts. This is live plays. This is live dance. And it makes people, they feed off of the energy of the house. And if they can see people and feel them there, and it'll enhance that performance and just make it wonderful all around.
So when you talk about opening the house gradually, I 100% can see physically how that fills from front to back, and then you don't have somebody in the back row who chose to get, let's say it's the cheapest ticket, and then there's this like gap in front of them. They see a lot of empty rows. For me, who hasn't done a lot of like house plans, ticketing plans, explain a little more in my layman's terms why not having your most expensive ticket in the front rows, why that helps the full house feel.
Yeah, so I look at it as kind of like vertical lines. Your center is most expensive, and then it becomes less expensive the further out you are from center. And that way, you're filling, but you're still preserving what are those seats that are perceived as, the best in the house, and that's usually your center. Your center is usually the best of the house. I'm also suggest something that is highly controversial, but that the back of your house stays expensive. So a big idea out there is called dynamic pricing. And that is you start to make your tickets more expensive as the closer you get to your show and as your theater begins to fill. A lot of people don't have the tools to do dynamic pricing. It's complicated within your databases. But if you build your house from the start with expensive pricing in the back, and you take the suggestion of, I'm keeping the back rows, my back, 10% off sale until we're ready, until we've sold enough, and then they go on sale, and they are your most expensive to your second most expensive tier of pricing. That is your built-in dynamic pricing.
Can you explain dynamic pricing if people don't understand what that is?
Oh, sure. Dynamic pricing is taking your base ticket prices and increasing them in certain percentages as you've sold more tickets and as you get closer to your show. It's a way to increase revenue. It can, though, get complicated. I've worked in multiple different ticketing systems, and none of them are great for dynamic pricing. And a lot of times your person, whoever's handling your database, and it could just be you're a one-person operation, you do marketing and you hire in just volunteers to work in your box office, you don't have time to do all that complicated back-end price adjustments for the dynamic pricing. So like I said, starting from the get-go with expensive seats in the back, but not putting them on sale until you're at an 85% sold house, that's your built-in dynamic pricing. And you don't have to do fancy stuff. It's not 7 o'clock at night the day before open when you really need to be editing that trailer video and you're
Mhm.
trying to figure out how to increase your prices.
Yeah.
And so when we're thinking about those vertical columns as the spread of ticket pricing, as somebody who tends to go for the cheaper ticket option versus the higher quality seat, the more sought after seat for that higher price, do you see that that ever fills side of house before it goes into the center?
No, because you're still going to have that demand for center.
Okay,
So your
cool.
center is still gonna feel nice and full, and people are going to buy it. You're just gonna have more people buying those side seats because instead of
Because now it's accessible to
because now it's
me to be in the
accessible.
front of
Yes.
the side as opposed to the whole front is
Yeah.
more expensive.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Now I'm there.
Also, if you're looking at it too, and you're looking at ticket sales, you're like, wait a second, I can get a $25 ticket and it's in the fifth row. Like, score, and then you buy it instead of like, oh, I can get a $25 ticket, but it's in the back of the balcony.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna be
me
able
who
to see
might
in the
go
seat.
for the $25 tickets and I'm back there.
Yeah,
Big gap, people who paid more for their ticket.
yeah.
Gotcha.
And you can see that, and we talked a little bit about where are people buying seats. It's just as important, where are people not buying seats? Where
Mm.
where are those empty ghost areas of seating, and figure out where is it and why is it happening?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And how do you
It's
fill it?
and yeah. And it's also okay to, like, go to the theater, physically look at sight lines, and it's okay to decide we're going to make these pocket of seats just not available at all. Because no matter what you do, they're just bad seats.
Mhm.
And you don't want to present your product with a bad sight line or a bad hearing space. And just don't even make them available. They're only available until you're sold out, right? Until you've sold every other available seat. It's okay to say that this theater was not properly designed for the art form that we are performing, and some of these seats just shouldn't be on sale.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yep.
Especially if you aren't selling out shows. That makes total sense. Why give somebody the option to have that experience
Mhm.
if there are always other seats available to push people into or to encourage people into?
Yep.
Mm,
It's
that
another
makes
thing too. I like to stand in the back of the house during performances and see what the audience is doing. So if you're not sure and you see a whole lot of this going on in that, like that is a really big
Ah,
cue.
uh-huh.
There's something wrong with that seat, or there's something wrong with the staging, like this, like you said, the sight lines on the seat. So a lot of it too is just watching your audience's behavior. And this is outside of ticketing, but the whole experience in the theater is a thing. Like I was at a client once and I was just watching audience experience and I noticed everybody was coming out with cups and bottles and like their drinks and their um the food that they had ate like during the first act, and they're coming around out and they're all looking around and there was no trash can right there. So
Yeah.
like they had to go the whole way outside to find a trash can to dispose of their trash, or they had to go into the bathroom, and so then they're getting in line, like they're messing up the bathroom line to try and throw their trash away, and the simple solution was put a trash can right outside the door. And now like they did that, and that isn't a thing anymore, but it's just observing behavior. And if you start seeing repetitive behavior, how are you going to adjust it for a better experience?
So I just got to give a presentation at OSU a couple days ago with photographer, videographer Jen Zmuda.
Mm.
And she gave this amazing example as we were talking about this kind of thing. We were talking about user experience of a website. And so we can tack this on to literally all user experiences all around everything that your organization does. Events, shows, ticket buying process, website, all of those things. And she gave the example of at IKEA, they have people whose jobs it is to follow you around the store and see where you go and see how you interact and see where you stop, see what you don't even notice, see where you take the most time to take something in or where you ignore things. And then they take that information back and use that to help design the store, set up their rooms and where to sell things. And as I always say, like, we are not these big companies, but we can definitely steal some ideas out of their playbook. We can take that idea of just have somebody there to observe, to follow around and like go through the customer process as well. That's the biggest thing. Half the time, what we do is we go onto the ticketing website of an organization and realize that something isn't set up correctly. Nobody in the organization knows
Yeah.
because nobody's going through the customer process to find out what customers are experiencing.
Yeah. They're like, we haven't sold any tickets to this show. Well, that ticket was linked. That broke. Blah, blah, blah. We haven't sold any tickets to that show, but then the link is broken. So you can't buy tickets to that show. So that's why you haven't sold any. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is. It's
As again, I always say it. We want to make your lives easier. Sometimes what that means is we are adding things to your to-do list. And so what we're saying is take time once in a while to have somebody go through the customer experience online, in person, at events, and just make sure that things are functioning the way you want to function and find where you can improve things.
I say you should be reviewing your website every month, like clicking through every page every month, which sounds a little bit overwhelming if you have a huge website, but
Mhm.
as you say, Megan, your website is like your storefront. And you have to make sure the right products are in front of the right people when they get
Mhm.
there. So, yeah.
And I think what this is all tying back to is reminding ourselves this is all customer focused. The ticket pricing,
Mhm.
all of it, the end goal is, of course, benefit for our organization. How do we get those benefits? Focusing on the customer experience and how they are interacting with us. And so that comes down to what pricing do they have available that we can follow what they want and kind of guide them into making this incredible experience in the house based on the pricing available. That then in the long run helps us financially. Same thing with all of these experiences. We want them to be happy because that is how we get happy.
And tying it the whole way back to if you just do the same thing you've always done and you're not checking that stuff, then you end up doing maybe not the right experience for your audiences.
Full circle.
To make changes, you're going to have uncomfortable conversations with certain people. And you're just going to have to accept that and know that you're not going to grow. You're not going to grow your tickets, and you're not going to grow your donations, and you're not going to grow your event attendees unless you start having those critical and uncomfortable conversations with those that are in your, those that are part of your organization. And that, that includes maybe that conversation with yourself too.
Yeah.
Get comfortable with the uncomfortable. We're at a critical point now with arts. We are well past the pandemic.
Mhm.
It is time to make some adjustments, some big adjustments, and get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
All right, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you're following us on all of the digital platforms and keep an eye out for this month in arts marketing.